Three, two, one, and we are live. Hey, Namaste Utsav.
Namaste Ajay bhai. Namaste. This is our second meeting.
Utsada, this is our second show. So this is Ajay Shah. I am the Executive Vice President for Awareness and Advocacy and Public Relations. And with me is Utsav Chakrabarti. He is the Director of Awareness and Advocacy and Public Relations for World Hindu Council of America. That's VHPA. Namaste Utsav.
Namaste everybody.
Namaste. So this is our second show, but we have to kind of start on a somewhat somber note because the biggest news item of this week was actually mob lynching of two sadhus in Maharashtra in India. And these are the two sadhus and the drivers who were passing through an area in Maharashtra called Palgarh, and they were on their way to attend the final rites for their guru who had just passed away. And a mob, got them out of the car, and in fact, in presence of the police, almost in cooperation with the police, lynched the sadhus and their drivers to death. These sadhus belong to the Purana Akhada, which is one of the oldest sannyasi parampara or tradition in India, and it's really sad. So let me share this video clip with our viewers and with you about what happened. And as you guys know, we are just starting out, so there are always going to be some technical hitches here and there. But let's see if our first successful video share and how it goes. So I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to show on our own Twitter feed as to what actually happened, and see for yourselves how a Hindu sadhu or how Hindu sadhus rather are treated in India. So we'll try to skip this YouTube ad, but please see this. So this is a 70-year-old sadhu who is being lynched. So this is truly a gut-wrenching, incident, right? And really, it makes me very emotional, and it's really, if in a country which is supposedly the refuge for Hindus, the only country where really Hindus are 80%, and this is how Hindus are lynched. I cannot imagine where Hindus are safe. So every time we come across this kind of situation, it makes our resolve to stand up against Hindu phobia, to stand up against those people who are anti-Hindu. It makes our resolve even stronger, because what we contribute is really this unique ideology, unique philosophy that everyone on the earth is created equal, all lives matter, Hindu lives matter, but really all lives matter. And when we see something like this, every time we see something like this, we are going to really play this particular song. So, and it is a song that attests to the fact that our heart and our minds are rededicated to the cause that we believe in, which is Hindu unity, Hindu lives matters, and all lives really matter.
समर्पित तन समर्पित और यह जीवन समर्पित मन समर्पित तन समर्पित और यह जीवन समर्पित चाहता हूँ देश की धरती तुझे कुछ और भी दूँ मन समर्पित तन समर्पित और यह जीवन समर्पित माँ तुम्हारा ऋण बहुत है मैं अकिंचन किंतु इतना कर रहा फिर भी निवेदन थाल में लाऊं सजा कर भाल जब स्वीकार कर लेना दया कर यह समर्पण दान अर्पित प्राण अर्पित रक्त का कण कण समर्पित मन समर्पित तन समर्पित और यह जीवन समर्पित मांझ दो तलवार को लाओ न देरी बांध दो कस कर कमर पर ढाल मेरी भाल पर मल दो चरण की धूल थोड़ी शीश पर आशीष की छाया घनेरी स्वप्न अर्पित प्रश्न अर्पित आयु का क्षण क्षण समर्पित मन समर्पित तन समर्पित और यह जीवन समर्पित तोड़ता हूँ मोह का बंधन क्षमा दो तोड़ता हूँ मोह का बंधन क्षमा दो गाँव मेरा द्वार घर आंगन क्षमा दो आज सीधे हाथ में तलवार दे दो और बाएं हाथ में ध्वज को थमा दो ये सुमन लो ये चमन लो नीड़ का तृण तृण समर्पित मन समर्पित तन समर्पित और यह जीवन समर्पित चाहता हूँ देश की धरती तुझे कुछ और भी दूँ मन समर्पित तन समर्पित और यह जीवन समर्पित।
Very touching and very moving, but also every time we come across
समर्पित तन समर्पित और यह
so every time we come across an event like this, it brings us in our heart as to why we are doing what we are doing, and that is Hindus have something to contribute and something positive to contribute in this world, and we are dedicating and rededicating ourselves to the cause. Um, and I'd like to get your reaction and see what you have to say about the incident in Palgarh.
So first of all, my sincere condolences to everybody who have known these people, the sadhus who were lynched in Palghar, and my respects to the Juna Akhada, a tradition of sadhus, sages that goes hundreds of thousands of years back, and their lineage have not just intellectually contributed to the growth and the development of Hindu Dharma, but have physically fought invaders uh, in the past to protect Hindu temples all over the Indian subcontinent. So my sincere condolences to the Juna Akhada whose members were lynched. But more importantly, we have to look at the sacrifice and the martyrdom of these revered sadhus as a bigger symptom of something that afflicts the Indian subcontinent. Uh, it transcends borders, it has immense resources, and it is something that we have to continuously fight against as a community, as a Hindu community. And even though the incident happened in Palghar in India, there are lessons to be learned for Hindus from all around the world, not just in India. India happens to be a country where Hindus live. 80% of the population is Hindus. Nepal, Bangladesh, these are countries where huge Hindu populations live. Similarly, in the Caribbeans, in the Pacific islands of Fiji, and all over the world, there are different areas where Hindus live, in Malaysia, Indonesia. And each community has their own story of persecution. And I think what happened in Palghar is a lesson for each of the Hindu community around the world. And I think I'm hoping that the government of India will take steps to bring the culprits to justice as swiftly as possible. But these videos point out to something which is very important for us to understand, that we are living in a world where mutual respect is not always forthcoming and not always fundamental. Most Hindus believe, because of the way our religion is framed over thousands of years and the way our religion has evolved over thousands of years, that we believe in the world being a family where there is mutual respect for each other's practices and beliefs. But that is something very unique to Hindus. And many Hindus don't understand that often doesn't exist in fundamentals of many other major religions of the world. And it comes as a surprise to many Hindus, but as somebody who has lived and studied Hinduism, not just Hinduism, but many other, both Christianity, Islam, and other religions of the world, it is something that I stress upon. And that's something I say even in interfaith events, that the whole issue begins where mutual respect ends. Where what happened in Palghar is basically a symptom of that. And it will not end with just this one incident. We have to fight to end it.
So let me ask you this, right? So I think as unfortunate as this incident is, all the major media outlets in India kind of mentioned it in passing, right? It's only the social media that picked it up and made a big issue out of this. The international media is very quiet on this. There may be a handful of stories that are reported. I've seen a couple of stories here and there on this incident, but nothing major. The so-called intellectuals, both Indian and international, they have not said a word, right? I mean, most of the intellectuals are completely quiet. They have uttered not a single word, not even condolences, right? And major political parties in India have said nothing. People like Bernie Sanders and the some of the people in the Democratic Party, and I don't want to make this a political show. It's not about Republicans. It's not about Democrats. It's about Hindus, right? It's a Hindu cafe. So, by the way, anyone who is just joining us, you're joining the World Hindu Council of America's live broadcast that happens every week at 11 o'clock Eastern. We are Hindu Cafe, so Chakrabarti, Aisha, and we're just talking about new issues of the week. And we welcome you to join us every week. So we are this week talking about the Palgarh, and I was asking also as to what do you think about the silence from the major media, all the so-called intellectuals, the academicians, the people who spoke quite a bit, rightly, wrongly, on news items that were fake news, an overused term nonetheless. But a lot of news that initially came out of Delhi riots where Hindus were kind of portrayed as the perpetrator of the riots, but actually it was quite the opposite. But people jumped on Hindus and people said Hindus are militants and Hindus are murderers and Hindus are lynching Muslims, all the other stuff. But here's a clear incident where Hindu sadhus in front of everyone are lynched to death and there's no reaction.
Correct.
So why is that?
So you raised many points and multiple aggrieved and aggrieved communities here and multiple perpetrators here and so let me touch upon them one by one. You covered a lot of people in this conversation that you just had. So let me start with the media. So in my opinion, there is the media in India, which is part of a larger global media machine, if I can say that, which carries an agenda of its own. And it has been that way for a while. And it is driven by globalist movements, some of which are religious. You will find pan-Islamist sympathies amongst them. You will find ultra-leftist sympathizers amongst them. But obviously, one thing that is common amongst many of these ideological spectrum that the globalist media covers or supports, there is very little sympathy for Hindus because Hindus are not considered relevant in the global geopolitics, either economically or theologically. That's a conversation we should have for another cafe. We should specifically discuss the global media and how parts of the global media that operates in India works the way it works, and we can dissect and deconstruct them for a whole conversation. But that's where it comes from. Hindus don't matter generally to them, besides the occasional exotica that Hinduism often brings to the otherwise Judeo-Christian / Islamic worldview, monotheistic worldview. So that's one topic. Then you mentioned political parties. As you said, if there was one death in India of somebody who is not a Hindu, I'm sure political leaders around the world would be waiting to make a tweet and a statement about it and blame Modi and who for, even if it's nothing to do with politics. But there is not that is not forthcoming for the Hindu community when the Hindu community is the victim. But the reason why politicians in America or other parts of the world do that is partially because of who they are expecting the support from, or either in terms of money or in terms of votes. Politicians in America, especially, you mentioned Bernie Sanders, so I would give him as an example. Bernie Sanders ran his campaign dependent on Muslim Brotherhood. He didn't hide it. He went to a convention in Houston by Islamic Society of North America, which is not very, it's quite transparent and has open contacts with, Muslim Brotherhood, and has expressed sympathies for many Islamist movements around the world, which are violent in nature. Bernie Sanders doesn't care because he needed the votes from the Muslim community. And he knows that people who will support him from that community expect him to support these kinds of issues and make statements about it. He doesn't believe that about the Hindus. He thinks Hindus are an easygoing community. They mind their own business, try to get education and make a good living. So it's not relevant to him because Hindus are not working towards making this relevant to him. If tomorrow Hindus in America wrote to him about Palgarh, he may have given a thought to it, but that doesn't come to him naturally. Neither do, other American politicians who take the Hindu community for granted because they know that they're not relevant in their perception.
Okay,
they are relevant.
Right. But so that is, okay, I understand that part, right? 80% of Indians are Hindus.
Right.
Hindus can determine the fate of political parties. So if not for Hindus, for their own political future, these parties seem they would care about Hindus, right?
Well, see, you have to understand that one of the benefits of Hinduism being a diverse, multi-philosophical belief system, and that has been evolving over many, thousands of years. We literally can go back 7,000 years to find the first traces of Hindu practices. So one of the benefits of that is that, and one of the many benefits of that, it's diverse. It's all encompassing. It's open. It's a open architecture. Philosophies come and add themselves to the core, and then when it's not relevant, they get ejected from the Hindu philosophical system. But that one of the disadvantages of having that kind of an open architecture belief system that is evolving all the time is that you cannot create fanatics, or the religion doesn't lend itself to creating fanatics. So you won't find people.
Advantages, you mean, not disadvantages.
It is a disadvantage in the way that people don't come together to support irrational and unreasonable agendas, which many other religions do. And in the short term, often these agendas guide and push world politics, and often wars.
Philosophical fanaticism, strong
Correct.
adherence, not the violent kind, right?
Oh, trust me, there are belief systems that promote violent fanaticism as part of their philosophical preachings.
Right. Hindus don't believe in violent fanaticism.
Hindus don't believe in that.
Again and again.
Correct.
That the most Hindus would do is write angry letters to editors.
Correct.
And that if at all, it's an issue that really, really touches their heart.
Correct. And one of the disadvantages of that is that it's easier to fish in the Hindu fault lines. When you have more diversity, you also have more fault lines because you have multiple opinions, and people with vested interest from a geopolitical perspective or from a religious perspective are more than happy to fish, in those fault lines. And many people in India, especially political parties in India, believe that it's easy to divide Hindus along fault lines, and they work accordingly. Sometimes, it's often very clear in Indian politics that, it's easier to divide Hindus and take a section 15%, 20% out in your own side, and then get another 15%, 20% minority community, which is willing to unite for their irrational agendas and club together a political force. And so Hindus become less relevant in politics if they are not united.
So as we come to a close for this particular session of Hindu Cafe, I want to just mention that we're still living in an unusual time, still under lockdown, and our seva work, our service work continues. Okay? I mean, I think it is amazing how small Hindu community, which is small in terms of its footprint in America. We are, the 6 million maybe Hindus in America with 20 million people following the Hindu way of life in some way or the other in the entire, in the entire country, which is over 320 million people. So it's a really small footprint. And yet, in every aspect of service, whether it's medical professionals, the frontline healthcare workers, people who are staying at home and making masks, people who are collecting funds for the priests at the temples who lost their livelihood, people who are cooking food and going to distribute the food. Our Atlanta chapter recently, yesterday, in fact, went and gave food to the Marietta Police Department. They got Subway sandwiches and other cooked food. They collect canned food and distributed that. I know our chapter in Cincinnati and Ohio has done it. I know that in other parts of Ohio as well. I don't want to single out one part of the Ohio and not mention the other parts, but in multiple parts of Ohio, we have done that in Massachusetts. We continue to do that in New Jersey, where we distributed close to 100,000 masks to the first responders in New Jersey. And we continue to distribute meals, continue to distribute other items to the first-line health, the first-line responders, as well as to the community in need. We're helping the soup kitchens. We're in every single place where there's a need. As much as we can do as as a community, we are doing it. We work with other organizations. We are working with Hindu mandirs. We're working with various ashrams which are in America. We continue to work with Seva International, which is taking charge in serving the community. So, and other organizations. So,
yeah. I wanted to make a shout out on this, Ajay Bhai, before we go for the day. I wanted to make a shout out to Mahinder Sapa, who is from the Washington, D.C. area, and thank him for putting together the resources to help the international student community at University of Maryland at Baltimore. There were more than 20 students from the international student community who were trapped there without any resources. So VHP America Washington DC chapter, led by Mahinder Sapa, put together the resources, and they're providing them with food and other stuff. So I just wanted to make a note and thank him for that.
Yeah, and I want to also highlight the work that today that is going on, which is Seva for Cobb, which is Cobb County in Georgia, where we are in an interfaith kind of way. We are working with Must Ministries, we are working with Hindu Swayam Sevak Sangh, and we are working with Seva International to have a food drive to serve the community over there in Georgia. And they are collecting several items such as the dry milk cartons, the breakfast items, things that you can easily distribute in a food pantry. And and if you're living in Georgia, please join with them, help them out. If you're living in Massachusetts, please help out the local community in Boston area and contact the local boss. You can find all this information and a lot more on our website, which is vhp-america.org. That's vhp-america.org. And we really request you to donate to the best of your ability at vhp-america/donation. That's vhp-america/donation. And I think these are the times where our resolve to help the community, to rise up above our own needs and help the community is really tested. So we request you to do the best you can, to join the community, to contribute the best you can. And, really, Hindu Dharma is rooted in seva. Hindu Dharma is rooted in service. So please come, join the community, contribute, help fellow human beings in your own community. So with that, also, any final words before we close today's broadcast?
I think hopefully by next week, people are going to be home safe and keep maintaining social distancing. and hopefully everybody stays safe and hearty. And we'll see you again next Sunday.
Next Sunday at 8 o'clock Western time, 11 o'clock Eastern time, and Eastern time wherever you are. So thank you very much for joining. Once again, this is Hindu Cafe, Utsav Chakravarti, Ajay Shah, World Hindu Council of America, VHPA. Thank you and namaste.
Namaste.